Okay, these rows are each one key. So this row is C minor, this row is F minor, and this row is G sharp major. Okay, and again, I haven't really automated these since. So let's actually start without the bass, just the melody. All right, and C minor, yeah. Here's the bass. Okay, and again, just grounding in that root. Now, a really nice sort of bonus for working in this block method is that it means that I can know, okay, I'm going to use C minor, F minor, G sharp major, but I don't necessarily know what the bar structure is yet. I don't know I'm doing 2 bars of C, 2 bars of F, 2 bars of G sharp. I'm still in a sort of flexible stage where, for example, I might hold this root key, and I generally tend to do that in techno, is just hold that minor root key for a lot longer than any other key. So we could have 80% of all the track just sort of growling in this root minor. And then occasionally we can introduce those chord progressions just to sort of break the monotony. I'm free to sort of change the bar counts, which I really, really, really like. And what I like even more is if I'm playing keyboard over that, then I kind of just have my trigger pad here and I'll say, okay, trigger C, and I'll play some lead. Okay, and then when I feel it, I'll do the chord change to F, play some lead. So really nice technique for live as well, because it lets you take a chord progression that you know, but you can play one night, you can play it 4 bars, 8 bars, and the next night you can play it 2, 2, 4, and you can have all these different sort of variables on the bar counts for those chord progressions that you know, which is really cool tools for live. Okay, fantastico. Let's say that I wanted to go through a process of elimination. So look, I like that chord progression, but let's say I was like, one of those chords is not working. So I'll just give you an example, or even better, let's add in a 4th chord so you could sort of just see how I'm going to do this key change. So I'm going to copy the A. So I've got a 13-inch MacBook, so this Windows situation on Zoom is quite frustrating. All right, so let's copy the drum kit down to the next track. And I'm going to copy this as well. That's the bass. And there's the lead. Okay. The truth is, and this sort of refers to your question, Wayne, that in order to do a key change, only the bass needs to change key. Okay. Only the bass needs to change key. So if I go into the bass, which I'll just label this so it's clear. If I go into the bass and I want to put that 4th key in, I just have to shift this from G sharp to A sharp. Okay, that's now A sharp major. If you look at the circle, let me just show you guys. If you look at the circle, you can see over here that G sharp is on the major side of the circle. So I already know that it's major. But if you wanted to check, you just make sure that this is major. How do we make something major? We use the third. Remember that thirds have the power to define modality. So when I play G sharp, I'm going to play it with its major third, 4 semitones up, which is C. So I'm going to make sure that I always play G sharp with its major third to kind of stick to the phrasing, linguistic rules of the circle. Okay, cool. So again, now I've got this 4th key in my bass, right? 4th key in the bass. Oh my God, you've got 4 keys in your bass? That's crazy. That's really crazy. Okay, so 1. And what you hear about that last A sharp major, the 5 majors, that's quite cheesy. It's quite a cheesy chord. I like that cheese though, just depending on your personal taste. But if you're like a super Berghain death techno kind of person, you probably hate that chord. You need a hug then though, because I like that chord. So yeah, that's the bottom line, is I was able to add that 4th key just by using the bass key change. I don't actually need to change the lead melody. However, I could change the lead melody. So I'll give you an example just quickly. I'll just change a few notes, not the whole thing. I'll just change a few notes, kind of make them a little bit different for that phrase. So now we're going. Very cheesy at the end there. That's not my favorite chord, but I just wanted to give you an example of how you could go eliminate it. And you could say, no, fuck that. Okay, I'm going to take the F out and I'm going to keep the A sharp, or I'm going to introduce any of the other keys on the circle. It's just purely a process of elimination. There's very few people that know beforehand if a chord progression is going to sound good. So this is why the harmonic circle is so powerful, because you literally boom, open it up. Here's my starting key. Here are 5 or 6 available chords. Try this one. Oh, it's good. Try this one. It sucks, etc., etc. I see this chat is going crazy. What's happening in the chat? Okay. Ah, sorry. Damn it. Sorry, guys. This is why Tasha's downstairs fixing my fucking live stream. You see, live streams are ruining my life. So this is why I missed your thing. So here we go. Everyone got Ableton now? Give me a text and tell me. Yes, got Ableton? See, yes, we do. Lovely, okay. What I was saying, guys, I'm gonna have to do that all again, aren't I? Here's C minor. Let me open up this bass frequency so it's ready. Okay, so I've got them all in rows. C minor, F minor, then I had G sharp major. Then what I did is, here's the bass. I opened up just the bass and I made this A sharp for that 4th key, okay? And that's powerful enough, even if no other MIDI changes but the bottom note, but the root note, that's powerful enough to tell the brain, hey, listen, we're now in a new key. We're in A sharp major for this piece of the music, okay? And that's very important, is as soon as that bass key changes, it's a key change. When the bass is in C, I'm in C minor. When the bass goes to F, I'm in F minor. When the bass goes to G sharp, I'm in G sharp major. It's got to be major because if you look at the circuit, it'll tell you the mode. And when I'm in A sharp, it's A sharp major. Now, if I just stick to the key signature of C minor, if I just don't go out of that key signature, everything will just be in the right mode automatically. I don't have to think too much about it. Yeah. Okay, lovely. All right, so you got it. So let's just take that away because I didn't like that change, yeah? Here's everything in C, F, G sharp, A sharp. Okay, it's all about taste though, guys. I've used that A sharp, the 5 major chord, and it's been so pretty and beautiful that I wanted to cry. It's all about context. You can't listen to it like that and say, oh, I don't like that one chord. It's just got to do with where you put it in the phrase, exactly like using a strange word in a sentence. It's like, it's all about the skill of the author and the phrasing, where the commas are, the pausing, the tone of the voice. There's all these things that make it. So yeah. Okay, I'm quite happy with that then. I think what we should do now is we should switch this on its head. And we should do this entire exercise now in a different key, in a new key. And the key I had in mind was D, okay? But before we do that, there's one thing I want to show you that almost always is a point of confusion. Every time I've taught this to a student, this always comes up as a question later. So I just want to preemptively address it. So let me go to my notes quickly. And you see, I have a page called Numbering Fuckery. Okay. And let me just give you a little bit of context here. So what happens is, let's say that you had started a track in C minor. Okay. So to you, C is 1. And that's perfectly understandable because you're in the key of C, right? So obviously C is 1, D is 2, D sharp is 3, blah, 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 blah. Exactly how we've been discussing. And that is true monophonically at the level of C, this level of melody, it's true. But harmonically speaking, it's not actually true. So let me give you an example. Let's say that I have a chord progression that goes C minor, which I call 1. Then I go to D sharp major, which is its 3rd. Then I go to G minor, which is its 5th. So before I really learned about harmony, I would look at that and I'd say, my chord progression is 1, 3, 5, C minor, D sharp major, G minor, okay? But the truth is that's not actually entirely accurate because I've got to talk about chord progressions in terms of the relative major. So I've said, however, in harmonic thinking, the true way to actually dictate that is that C minor, even though it's my 1 for the melody, at the harmonic level, it's 6. It's the relative minor of our true tonic because a major cannot be a true tonic, okay? So it's just a sort of change in thinking. When you're in the minor, even though the minor is your home, it's your 1 and it's your tonic, it's not the true tonic. It's almost like a subtonic, like a temporary tonic. The true tonic is actually its relative major. Therefore, the progression 1, 3, 5 in minor, in true harmonic terms, is actually a 6, 1, 3 progression. Let me look at the chat to see how confused. Okay, someone had to leave. Love it. So that's the bottom line. So just give me an indication on the numbering thing. Does that make sense to you guys? That there's this sort of, I said over here, it's a numbering dichotomy because it's 2 numbering systems that are taking place at the same time. I am at one level in the minor, thinking in the minor, and I have the numerical series where if I'm in C minor, D is 1, D is 2, D sharp is 3, etc. But at the harmonic level, C is not 1, C is 6 because it's the relative minor of my major, which is D sharp major. All right, quite fucking complicated, isn't it? So, someone asked the question, should you tune your kick to the major tonic? No, no bueno. I don't do that. I tune my kick to the minor almost always. And that's why I said in the preliminary thing, I always use the 6, the relative minor, as the tuning benchmark. But look, dude, I can't say it's wrong. It's just that stylistically it works for my music production style. But you could definitely tune your kick to the major tonic. But just how much are you in that major tonic? Because if you're using the minor primarily, then it wouldn't make sense to tune your kick to the major tonic. That being said, for example, if you cannot find a kick in your minor tonic and you find a great one in your major tonic, it sounds awesome, then blessings to you, mate. Nothing wrong. Okay, fantastic. So you got me. So that's the numbering dichotomy, okay, is that we actually, when we number this progression, C minor, D sharp major, G minor is actually a 6, 1, 3. And I can just confirm that by looking 6, 1, 3, C to D sharp to G, okay? So that's what I call the numbering dichotomy in harmony. Okay, boom. We made it through. So we're well over halfway through now. In fact, I've got to bounce at about 11:45 today because we're going to sort this out. It's a bit of a shorter one. So for the last half an hour, let's power through and do this in a completely new key because the whole time we've been working together, we've been using C minor, okay? So just let me go to the fucking chat again. Give me a chat thumbs up if you guys are ready to continue with D minor, or if you want to take a break, let me know. I'm keen. Either way. We're good. Lego, I like it. Okay, sweet. So guys, entirely new key signature, entirely new journey, okay? I want to repeat this entire process of starting a track in a minor, working out the key of the minor, writing a riff that I like in the minor, and then plugging that minor in to its macro harmonic world, okay? I've chosen D because it's my personal favorite. Some of my best tracks that I think I've ever written are in D. I just love it. I love the fingering because I've got these big fat fingers. So yeah, it's just my personal favorite on a number of levels. It also, BT Dubs, has an absolutely amazing octave series. So for example, 73 is such a beautiful frequency for a kick drum, and 140 is just a perfect frequency for bass. So for example, I really battle to make music in C because the kick frequency is like 65 Hertz. It's just a little bit like 30. So I also love D because it just so happens that the octave series for the first 4 octaves are just perfect frequencies. 73 is like the most perfect frequency for a kick. So yeah, and that is a consideration. Like for example, F sharp is such a beautiful key to compose in. Try find a key in fucking F sharp. It's at like 38 Hertz. It's the most awkward frequency ever. So yeah, there are certain keys that just naturally translate better into 4/4 styles for me. Cool. So here I am. I've used the pattern order TSTT to calculate the series of related notes. And that gives me D, E, F, G, A sharp, C, and D. Interesting to note that D minor's scale, and again, this is melodic minor, is actually simpler to play than C minor scale. It's only got 1 sharp note in it, okay? It's also interesting to note that D minor scale is simpler than D major scale. D major scale is horrible. It's got like 3 sharps in it. So, and I just wanted to reiterate that there's no association between minor and black notes or minor and difficulty. Sometimes minor scales are very simple and sometimes they contain only white notes. So in the case of D, it so happens that the minor version of the scale is easier to play than the major. Okay, let me open up my project because I did very, very simple little project. Firstly in piano. Okay, let me not forget to share this with you now. Boom. Yeah, I know, guys. I know you can't see it. Just give me a minute, mate. Okay, boom. Here we are. Okay, this is like, when I say simple, on another level of simple, but I wanted to show you just with nothing but piano, okay, how we could go about doing this composition. All right, so again, if you look at my sequence here, I'm using such basic stuff here. D is the root, A is the 5th, okay? And then I've just used a 7 and a 4 just to give the melody a little bit of sort of interest. And this is what it sounds like. Okay, so I'm gonna ground that with D. All right, now it's not riff of the year, but it's moving enough to get me to this point where, okay, it's a riff in D minor, it's something. So I can start exploring chord progressions, okay? Okay, so let's go and do the process. Let's go and do this process in D. Okay, so I've got my melody, I've used whatever notes I'm using. I'm just using a super, like a D and A sort of melody, okay? And yeah, there we go, just D and A. Really basic sequence in D. Okay, and yeah, there we go. Just gotta find my notes here. Boom. Okay, so the same question occurs. I've got a riff that I like in D, and now I need to plug D into its macro harmonic world, okay? And that requires me calculating the relative major. And again, I know that the relative major is gonna be at the 3rd, okay? So I've drawn the circle below and I've got the circle. And again, you just gotta learn how to draw this sucker. Getting sloppier and sloppier as I draw more of them. But center down the middle, 1, 2, 3 on either side, okay? I've taken this position, 6, which is the relative minor, and I've slotted D into this position. So I'm saying I've started my track in a minor, and I'm going to assume that this minor that I'm in is the relative minor of an as yet unknown major. In order to calculate the major, I'm gonna have to take the minor, go up 3 semitones to its 3rd, and work it out that way. And if I do that, what I get is I get F major. So if I look at D minor, F is the third, and therefore F is going to be the major tonic, okay? And therefore I've put F major scale underneath it. Now again, F major and D minor have the exact same notes in the scale. They just start from a different order. So the key signature is the same. And you can see all these notes are common between the two scales, but they start from a different starting point, okay? Cool, so I'm in D. I've got a riff that I like in D. I'm confused about D because I don't know what keys are related to it. So I've got to plug D into a macro harmonic, into a harmonic world. In order to do that, and this is the hard part of doing this in minor, I've got to convert to its relative major. I do that by finding the third. Calculate the third as being F. Therefore, when I draw the actual circle, I've got F at 1. And now I've worked out these scale degrees of F. So what is 4? It's the 4th degree of the F major scale, which is A sharp. What is 7? It's the 7th degree of the F major scale, which is E, etc., etc. Okay, and now again, the circle is telling me all these things that I didn't necessarily know about this musical universe. It's telling me that A sharp major, if I play A sharp, it's got to be major. If I play C, it's got to be major. However, I play both G and A as minor in this musical universe, which I'm sure you can imagine. It's very useful to know each note in D minor, F major, when to play it, and the mode to play it in. So that's extremely, extremely useful. Okay, cool. So I'm going to play this root. It's Ableton. I've got my piano playing. And now let's go. All right, everybody got that? So it's pretty elementary. And you can actually see I've written in Ableton, I've written the chords that just by changing, or if you look at this MIDI, I'm just changing a single note. I'm just changing the root note of the chord. There's nothing fancy going on at all, but it's enough to indicate a chord change, okay? Very important. Okay, so now I'm going to do pretty much the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it in sounds that aren't terrible. Okay, let's open up D minor 2. Cool. Same story. I've converted this to this. Just a much better sound. Hold the roots. Where's my kick? There we go. All right, cool. yeah, see, the more you do this, it gets a lot easier. Does everybody sort of understand what just happened in D minor? Do you want me to go over that again, my exact logic from the beginning? Or just give me an indication of how you guys are doing out there, because obviously I can keep going all day. We could do this in every single key. We could do this in the same key again. Or I could show you the exact same logic chain in the third key, whatever makes you happy. But I think if we just spend a little bit more time with D minor, yeah, it'll make it clearer and clearer and clearer. So what I'll do is let me play you where this actually goes. By the way, that's the progression from an actual track of mine. Let me play you the full progression. Okay, so you see, again, I'm doing this thing with D, and I'm just sort of 1, 5, 1 in D. Okay, so I'll take you through the full progression. This fucking velocity on this piano is terrible. Let me do it in this sound rather. Much better. Okay, so that's just an example of how we would add. I'm just adding, building an initial phrase with 3 chords and then just following up and adding more and more and more. All right, so I'm going to take you through my logic chain. Let's share my notes. Boom. Okay, so imagine this could be D, it could be any key. I just want to stress this again. So an exercise for you guys to go do right now after this lesson, as we end this Zoom session, this is what I recommend. Take a minor key of your choice. Do not do D and do not do C, because we've just done them, unless you want to review these notes for these 2 keys. So for a great one would be G, okay? Start a track in G minor, which would mean exactly what I've done for D here, you're going to do for G. You're going to use G as the root note. You're going to use the pattern order T, S, T, T, S, T, T to calculate the pattern order for G minor. And then you're going to find a melody that you like in G minor, okay? You'll come to a point where you like that melody so much that you want a chord progression, or rather you need a chord progression, okay? And this is where the circle comes in. So it's critical that you implement the circle into the right stage of your production process. Choose all your sounds, get your rhythm, get something you really like, and then draw a circle and take it beyond that initial key into a chord progression, okay? Fantastic. We take the root minor and we ask ourselves the question, if this minor were the relative minor of a major, what would that major be? And the answer is going to be whatever key is at the 3rd of the minor. Okay, so in the case of D, we calculate F to be the relative major, and when I draw the full chord progression chart, I've got F at the relative major. Okay, I put D as 6 because they relative majors and minors. And then I plug in what is 4. Again, it's the 4th degree of the relative major scale. So that would be A sharp, etc., etc. And now I've got mapped out the entire musical universe for D major, D minor, F major. Okay. So your homework is to please go and do this exact exercise in G minor. Okay. And next week, when I see you for the last and final part in the series, which is Melodics and Harmonics part 3, we're going to take this concept even further into modulation, which gets very, very deep. So kind of, I'm sure you saw today, if you really understood lesson 1, today was probably pretty easy to follow. If you take the time to really understand lesson 2, which is chord progression theory, when we do modulation next week, it's gonna, a lightning bolt's gonna go off, and you'll see that you've got so many more tools when you get back into Ableton or your sequencer to write good chords with. Okay. Cool. Let's take a 2-minute break. I want to open up to questions, and then we'll come back and finish up. Anybody have a question? Does anybody have a question? Gary saves the day. Guys, don't judge me. It's day 33 of lockdown, whatever day it is. Wake and bake is perfectly legitimate. So, yeah. Some people are drinking vodkas at this time in the morning because it's Friday. Someone said Wicked Eyes. By the way, if you guys want, at the end of the next lesson, I'll just take like 3 or 4 of my tracks that you may know, and I'll just show you the actual circles for those tracks, because it's quite cool to see tracks that you may know, just explained on the harmonic circle. Every single track I've ever done has a circle, and I keep all of these in this crazy diary so that I can always go back and just see, okay, this was my logic when I was composing this, okay? So yeah, I'll definitely make sure that that's ready. And then someone was very helpful. I forgot who it was, but they sent me this keyboard plugin that I can play, and you guys can see exactly what notes I'm playing. I didn't play a lot today because I know you couldn't see it. So next week there's going to be a lot more playing, and I'll make sure I've got that plugin so you can see my MIDI as well, because I think that's quite useful. And then I'm just waiting for this question. Okay, can you explain the difference between the harmonic circle and the circle of fifths? Okay, the harmonic circle. So firstly, just so you understand, guys, you can't learn this anywhere else. This harmonic circle that I'm teaching you, it's quite a long story, but basically I've been trying to learn music theory for like 5 or 10 years when I found this. And I found this obscure, it's almost like a thesis on the frequency ratios, the mathematics of frequency ratios of music theory. It was written by this crazy Canadian musicologist named Wayne Chase. I found this stuff like 10 or 15 years ago, and I actually licensed it from him exclusively for the world. So this music theory system that I'm teaching you can't learn anywhere else, but basically from me or Wayne. And so it's really, really, really interesting. And it's really unique because, as you've seen, we're doing really advanced theory, but we're not using any notation. There's no funny squiggles. There's no weird symbols from the 17th century. So we're able to do really, really high level theory without using any notation, which I think is amazing. So this circle that I'm teaching you is unique to this music theory system, okay? And it's actually called a Chase chart. Another name for it is the Nashville number chart, okay? Because sometimes Nashville, country musicians from Nashville, they use the same system to sort of communicate their chord progressions to each other. So yeah, so the bottom line is that this circle is like a scale for chords. It's there to map out the musical universe of this particular key signature that you're in. Whereas the circle of fifths is a completely different thing. It just shows you how to keep modulating to the fifth key, fifth key, fifth key, fifth key. It's not actually going to give you a series of related chords from your starting chord, or the chord that you input. So that's very different. This Chase chart or harmonic circle is the only tool that I'm aware of in the world that can take any starting chord and it can sort of spit out a series of related possible chords. So that's why it's such a useful tool. Where can you read up on it, Dean Fuel? You can join my Patreon and I'll send you the notes. But you can actually Google him. He's a fascinating motherfucker. His name's Wayne Chase, and he's got a whole bunch of really interesting PDFs online. It is extremely squirrely and weird, and it's all based on like country music and pop. So you've got to do a lot of adaptation. But to save you about 10,000 hours, I did that all for you. So I've kind of adapted this all for you to electronic music already, because if you read that original Wayne Chase text, as good as the mathematics is, it's very much based on pop and stuff. So yeah, but please feel free to research it as much as you want and send him a message and tell him that you heard of his system from me. I'm sure he'll be very, very stoked to hear. Okay, cool. And then I see one last question that I think is really relevant, because this is something we're going to get into next week as well. Verses and choruses, bridges, all this sort of stuff. In electronic music, the sort of culture is, okay, I choose a root key and I've maybe got 2 or 3 chords in the whole song and I sort of leave it at that. When you're writing pop or when you're writing sort of more mainstream music, the chord structure is a lot more complex. So what might happen is I might go, I don't know if you guys can see the notes. I might go, okay, section 1 is D minor, F major, D minor, F major. The bridge goes G minor, A sharp major, G minor, A sharp major, C, D. And then the chorus would go D, G, D, G, D, F, D, F. So there's all these like really insanely complex variations that you can do. And if you like look at the Beatles and stuff, because what's really cool about Wayne Chase's work is he takes like chord progressions from the Beatles and fucking Westlife and all those kind of people, and he breaks down the chord progressions and songs your like parents used to torment you with on the way to school. You start understanding the music there, and you're like, that's why that fucking song was stuck in my head for 6 years. Like Roxette. I said hello, you fool, I love you. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. It's extremely cool. It's extremely cool to take pop stuff and even, dude, you want to blow your mind? Hans Zimmer, download a Hans Zimmer score and try plug it into the circle and just see the level of fuckery, the level of mastery that goes on in some people's chord progressions. Niels Fromm is another one. Try and work out what that dude's doing in MIDI. It's absolutely crazy. Guys, it is almost done. I've got to go in 10 minutes. So let's have a last question if there is one. I'm going to do a quick revision of everything that we've done today, and then I'm going to leave it at that. So if I get a question in the next 30 seconds, I'll answer it. Otherwise, I'm just going to take you through like a revision of everything we've done, and then we're going to call it.
Ryan, when do you dabble with a diminishing tone?
Oh, thank you. Whose question was that?
It's Josh. How's it going?
Oh, what's up, Josh? Good, and you, man? Oh, nice. I didn't know we could do this. Fucking technology. When do I dabble with it? Okay, it's a good question. Diminished are very unstable chords, so I would never start with them. So that's where I wouldn't use them. I would never start a progression on a diminished. What's very common is to use them as a step. So for example, this progression from D minor to F major, from 6 to 1, or from a relative minor to its relative major, is notoriously cheesy. It's overused. Everyone does it. It's just not interesting. What's very cool, although there is something obviously good about the relative minor, relative major progression, because it's the most common progression in the whole world. What's really sneaky, as an example to get into diminished, is you could just add the diminished chord between them. So you'd go D minor, E diminished, F major, and you'll see that E diminished in between those two very stable chords as this beautiful sort of, it's like a moment of dissonance that's resolved as you then move to the major. And I just want to highlight that because that's the key. When you introduce things like diminished, we introduce chromatic keys, which we'll do next week, all this weird stuff. The key is do it occasionally and do it in between two moments of stability. So I've got a nice stable minor chord. Then I use a moment of tension or a chromatic chord or something that's unusual. And then I sort of resolve that tension by moving to something a bit more stable. And that's the key with anything unusual that you want to do. Create structure, create balance first, and then have that sort of as an exception to that. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I've got some private questions about frequencies and stuff, but obviously that's out of the context from today. I just want to wrap up with 3 things before, in case we lose anyone when I'm doing the revision. 1, thank you to my sponsors, Akai. Once again, I cannot stress enough, my studio is full of Akai gear, and the reason is the weighting is insane. If you're a keyboard player and you battling to play like complex phrases, it's probably because the weighting on your keyboard sucks. And that's why even the semi-weighted stuff from Akai is just so responsive. I just find it easier to play than any other brand. So thank you very much to Akai for making this series of free lessons possible. Also Mixroom Studios. If you're making music, I guarantee you are not mixing it properly unless you've been doing this for 20 years. So get hold of Mixroom Studios. You will benefit from taking your tracks through a professional, objective, third-party engineering service that just looks and says, hey man, this kick's got too much 80 hertz. This sub has got too much harmonic weight, whatever it is. So yeah, can't recommend enough that you start using, if you're serious about your tracks and you want to compete with the big boys out there, you've got to have proper mixing. If someone sends me something for the label and the mix sounds like shit, I don't even waste my time because you know, conversely, if someone sends me a track and the mix is really good, I really sit and say, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. There must have been 100 hours that go into this. It puts them on a pedestal instantly. So that's it. Check out Akai products for your keyboards. Check out mixroomstudios.com or info@mixroomstudios.com for all your mixing and mastering. Thanks very much. I'm going to do a 5-minute revision. And then guys, just about the Patreon, obviously. So obviously I don't want to be like, join my Patreon because I was happy to do these lessons for free and I've loved it and enjoyed it. However, as you're starting to see, it is a hell of a lot of work. I'd like to keep doing this because I really enjoy it. And I've said for the Patreon guys, we'll do a bi-monthly class, so twice a month, which I think is a fair commitment. I'm going to do another free one next week, and then another one after that on live, and then the free series is over. So if you want after that, after the next two, and you want to do additional lessons, please do join my Patreon, and we're going to keep this going forever. We can do a little private session. We can go into live. We can go into synthesis, sound design, modular. There's many, many, many nodes on this journey. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed it. And we'll see you next week, Friday, 10 a.m. for Melodics and Harmonics Part 2. Love to you guys. Enjoy the lockdown.